I got home earlier than usual that Thursday, not for any particular reason. A client rescheduled last minute, and instead of *ling time at the office pretending to look busy, I figured I'd grab takeout from Allison's favorite sushi spot and surprise her. We'd both been so buried in work lately that dinner together, even in silence, felt like a rare win. On the way back, I actually felt light for once, like I was doing something right. I didn't text her to say I was coming. I figured the surprise would be a nice change of pace, something to break the monotony of our recent distance. I pulled into the driveway around 5:40, just before dusk, and noticed her car was already there. She must have gotten off early too, which felt like good timing, the rare overlap in two people slowly drifting on separate schedules. The house was quiet when I stepped inside. Too quiet. No TV humming in the background. No music from her Bluetooth speaker. Just stillness. I dropped my keys into the dish by the door and set the sushi bag down on the kitchen counter. That's when I heard the water running upstairs. She was in the shower. I didn't think much of it at first. In fact, I smiled to myself. Maybe she was winding down early, giving herself a minute before dinner. Maybe we'd actually sit down and talk. Not just about bills or schedules or how tired we both were. I kicked off my shoes and headed up the stairs, hoping to catch her with that towel wrap and wet hair she always wore when she was relaxed and real. But the moment I reached the top step, something shifted. The bathroom door was cracked open just enough to let steam escape into the hallway. The sound of the water stopped, abruptly, like someone realizing they weren't alone. Then the door creaked open, and she walked out. She wasn't in a towel, not a robe, not even one of those big pajama tees she always swore were the only thing comfortable enough after a long day. No. She stepped into the hallway in a red lace lingerie set I had never seen in my life. Not the kind you pick up on a whim at a department store. The kind you plan for. The kind you hide receipts for. The kind you don't wear unless someone's meant to see it. I froze. And so did she. For a full 2 seconds, we just stared at each other, both pretending we hadn't just collided with something irreversible. Her eyes widened for a flash, like she hadn't expected me to be home yet, and then just as quickly narrowed with forced calm. She gave a little laugh, awkward, too light, and ran her hand through her damp hair. "Oh," she said, glancing down at herself like she'd forgotten what she was wearing. "I was just trying this on. It was on sale, thought I'd surprise you later." The words came out too rehearsed, like a line she'd been waiting to use. I didn't say anything at first, just nodded slowly, as if I were buying it, even though everything about the moment felt off. Her skin wasn't dripping wet like it usually was after a shower, just lightly damp, like she'd been rushing. Her cheeks were flushed, but not in the cozy post-shower way. And the scent drifting from the bathroom wasn't her usual lavender body wash. It was something heavier. Floral, expensive, like she'd sprayed perfume right before stepping out. Which, who does that for a solo shower? I didn't mention the shopping bag either. But I saw it, just behind her, peeking out from the edge of the bed. A crisp white boutique bag with gold lettering, not the local mall kind. I'd seen the name before. It was a lingerie boutique in downtown Chicago. A place we had walked past together once on a trip 2 years ago, and she had joked about how over-the-top it all looked. She hadn't been to Chicago in months, at least not that I knew of. I forced a smile, walked toward her like nothing had happened, kissed her cheek, told her dinner was downstairs, and kept walking, right past her into our bedroom, then down the stairs into the kitchen, all without looking back. Inside, I was spiraling. I opened the fridge even though I wasn't hungry, poured a glass of water and just stared at the sink while the glass trembled slightly in my hand. I set it down without taking a sip. My mouth was dry, but my chest was full, like something was pressing down on me, but I couldn't tell what it was yet. I heard her come downstairs a few minutes later. Her footsteps were light, cautious. She moved like someone trying not to creak floorboards. She didn't speak, and neither did I. She just opened a drawer, took out chopsticks, and sat at the counter like it was any other night. She asked me about my day, and I gave the same 3-word answer I always did. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. The meal tasted like paper, Later that night, I found the tag still attached to the lingerie in the hamper, half-torn but legible. It wasn't from anywhere around here. Same Chicago store, same boutique, same lie. I sat on the edge of the bed for a while, watching her brush her hair in the mirror. She looked at me once, met my eyes, and gave me a look like everything was fine, like we were still okay. But we weren't. I didn't know what I was looking at anymore. My wife? My stranger? Someone playing house in my home? The next morning, she was already up when I came downstairs. Coffee made. Toast half-burned the way she liked it. She was scrolling on her phone, casual as ever. I watched her from the hallway for a few seconds, long enough to catch her quickly minimizing whatever she was reading when she saw me. "Sleep okay?" she asked. "Yeah." I lied, because what was I supposed to say? That I was up most of the night wondering who the lingerie was really for? That I replayed the look on her face 100 times, trying to decide if it was guilt or surprise or something in between. I didn't ask questions I wasn't ready to hear the answers to. Not yet. But something had shifted, not a loud crack, not a clean break. Just a small splinter running through the surface of everything we'd built. Barely visible to the naked eye. But once you notice it, you can't unsee it. And I couldn't unsee it anymore. Not the lingerie. Not the bag. Not the perfume. Not her silence. The weirdest part? It wasn't anger I felt. Not yet. It was something colder. Something quieter. Like I was standing outside of my own life, watching someone else live it. And deep down, I knew this wasn't going to be the end of it. This was the beginning. After the lingerie incident, everything felt louder, not literally, but in that quiet way where you notice the smallest things and suddenly they all matter. The way someone takes their coffee, the shift in their voice when they say your name, the half-second delay when you ask them a simple question. Before, those things wouldn't have stood out. But now, it was like my brain had switched modes, from partner to observer, from husband to detective. And once that mode kicks in, you can't go back. You see everything. I noticed her phone was never on the charger in the bedroom anymore. It used to be there every night, buzzing occasionally while she slept. But now it was always with her. On the couch when she was watching TV. In the bathroom while she brushed her teeth. Under her pillow when we went to bed. Once or twice, I heard the screen tap to life when I rolled over at night, followed by the faint sound of her sliding it under her blanket. She said it was because her new work app had sensitive information. Company policy, she explained with a shrug. Can't risk leaks. Okay. I didn't argue. I didn't want to seem suspicious. I just nodded. But I knew that wasn't it. The Netflix password changed next. We used to share one profile, same list, same recommendations. But one night when I opened the app, it asked me to log in again. When I asked her about it, she said, "Oh yeah, they forced a password update. Something about cracking down on shared accounts." Another shrug. Another smile. Another subtle change that didn't sit right. Same thing happened with the joint bank account. She'd always handled most of the budgeting. Not because I didn't care, but because she was better at it. Excel sheets, receipts, due dates. She actually enjoyed that stuff. But suddenly I was locked out of the app. Said my credentials were wrong. She laughed when I brought it up. "Oh, that's on me. I changed the password last week. I'll send it to you." But she never did. And I didn't follow up. I told myself it didn't matter, that it was a small thing, that maybe I was overthinking, maybe I was being paranoid. But those small things started adding up. She started dressing differently, too. Not overnight, slowly, but noticeably. Her usual style had always been simple. Cardigans, skinny jeans, sneakers, sometimes a loose blouse with minimal makeup. She liked being comfortable, not flashy. But now, every week brought a new outfit. Silk, open backs, heels for no reason. One morning, she walked into the kitchen in a white blouse with a deep V-cut and gold buttons, paired with tight black slacks and heels. Not the work-from-home hoodie she used to live in. I blinked. She looked beautiful, but it felt performative. "You going into the office today?" I asked casually. "Just grabbing coffee with the team," she said. We're doing a check-in. Coffee. In heels? She caught my look. Relax, it's a professional thing, she added quickly. Dress code's more formal now. New boss. I nodded, but inside something tightened. Then came the perfume. I used to know her scents like I knew our bedroom ceiling. Something you've seen 1,000 times but never really noticed until someone changes it. Vanilla, rose, clean cotton. Those were hers. Comforting, familiar. But now, it was spice and citrus and expensive musk. One week it was Tom Ford. The next, a scent I couldn't place but knew cost more than we normally spent. I spotted the bottle in the bathroom, still in its decorative packaging like it was meant to be seen. She said a friend gifted it to her for her birthday. Her birthday was 2 months ago. Still, I didn't say anything. Not yet. There's this moment in every relationship, I think, where you sense the shift before you can prove it. You know something's wrong, even if you can't explain it to anyone else. You feel it in how quiet they get, how they laugh without looking at you, how they start texting in the bathroom, how they keep their laptop angled away on the couch, how you go from being their center to just another orbiting piece. She used to send me texts during the day, memes, updates, funny things she saw on the sidewalk. I realized I hadn't gotten one of those in weeks. Instead, I was always the one reaching out. How's your day? Need anything from the store? Dinner at home or out? The replies came late. Short, polite, distant. Busy day, we'll call later. Whatever you want is fine. Sorry, in meetings. Even the emojis changed. No more hearts. No more little inside jokes. Just thumbs up or the occasional smiley face. Sterile, obligatory. I started keeping track mentally at first, then with notes on my phone. Not because I was trying to trap her, but because I didn't want to gaslight myself. I needed something to look at, something to confirm I wasn't just imagining it. So I jotted things down. Tuesday, late home, said meeting ran long. Smelled like new cologne. Didn't eat dinner. Friday, left early for conference call at HQ. Came home with a new dress in her bag. Claimed it was from Marshall's. Tag said Bloomingdale's. Sunday, put phone on silent during breakfast. Wouldn't answer when it buzzed. Said it was just spam. Wednesday, kissed my cheek instead of lips before leaving. No eye contact. It got to a point where even our cat, Daisy, started acting differently around her. That might sound weird, but Daisy used to follow Allison everywhere. Loved her. Slept on her chest every night. But now, she hid under the couch when Allison came home. Wouldn't sit near her. Refused to sleep in our room. Maybe she's getting old, Allison said. But Daisy wasn't old. And she wasn't the one acting different. I started wondering if I should confront her. Just sit her down and say, tell me what's really going on. But I didn't. Because the truth is, I was scared. Scared she'd deny it so well that I'd start doubting myself again. Scared she'd twist it into my problem, say I was being controlling or insecure. Or worse, scared she'd tell me everything. That there really was someone else. That all these signs weren't signs, but confirmation. So instead of asking questions, I did what I'd never imagined doing in our marriage. I started checking the mileage on her car. I know how that sounds. I hated myself for it. But I couldn't help it. I knew how far her work was. I knew how much gas she usually burned in a week. And things weren't adding up. One Monday, she said she'd only gone to the office and back. But the mileage said she'd driven almost 70 miles. I double-checked the odometer that night. Next morning, up by another 50 before she'd even left for work. I stood in the garage that morning with her keys in my hand, just staring at the dashboard. I felt like a stranger in my own house. Like I'd fallen asleep in one life and woken up in another. Still, I didn't accuse her. I didn't explode. I didn't even cry. I just went back inside. Ate breakfast like normal. Kissed her on the cheek. And told myself the same thing I had been telling myself for weeks now. Maybe it's nothing. But I didn't believe that anymore. Not really. By the time Friday came, I couldn't take the guessing anymore. My head was a storm of half-truths and small lies that didn't fit together. I wasn't sleeping, wasn't eating right, and even coffee had started tasting metallic. You ever get that feeling where reality starts folding in on itself, and you're not sure what's real anymore? That's where I was, trapped between doubt and proof. That morning, Allison said she had a meeting with contractors after work. I didn't even ask what for. I just nodded and said, okay, pretending I hadn't heard her use that excuse twice before. But this time, I decided I'd stop pretending. When she left, I waited 15 minutes before following. I told myself I wasn't stalking her. I just needed peace of mind, closure, something real, because living in uncertainty was worse than the truth itself. She drove downtown instead of toward her office. I followed from a distance, hands tight on the steering wheel, my stomach in knots. The city looked different that night, sharper somehow. Every light, every sound felt like it was watching me. Finally, she turned onto a side street and parked near the Granville Hotel. My heart sank before I even saw him. That place wasn't an office building or a conference venue. It was a rooftop restaurant and boutique hotel. Fancy, secluded, dim lighting. The kind of place people go when they don't want to be seen. I pulled over a few cars behind her, keeping my headlights off. Through the windshield, I watched her step out. She wasn't dressed like someone meeting a contractor. She wore a dark blue dress, the one she used to save for anniversaries. Her hair was pinned back, makeup light but deliberate. She even wore the gold necklace I gave her on our 5th anniversary. I hadn't seen her wear it in months. She stood by her car for a moment, checking her phone. Then she smiled, small but real. A smile I hadn't seen in weeks. And that's when he appeared. A tall man in a tailored gray suit walked up to her from the sidewalk. I didn't recognize him, but the way she looked at him told me everything I needed to know. Familiar, comfortable, mate. They hugged. Not the casual kind, not a friendly squeeze. It lingered. His hand stayed on her waist, thumb moving in slow circles. She laughed softly, looking up at him in a way that twisted something deep inside me. And then he kissed her. It wasn't quick. It wasn't confused. It was slow, deliberate, a kiss between people who've done it before. I remember the way my pulse hit my ears, how the world narrowed to just the sound of blood rushing through me. I wanted to believe I'd misunderstood, that I'd stumbled into some bizarre mistake. But when she opened her eyes mid-kiss, she saw me. Our eyes locked through the half-empty parking lot. For a second, I thought she'd panic, pull away, cover her mouth, say something, anything. She didn't. She just looked at me, blank, calm, like she'd already accepted that this moment would come. Then she turned back to him, said something I couldn't hear, and they walked inside together. That was it. No explanation, no apology, no fear, just indifference. I stood there for a long time, gripping the steering wheel so tight my hands went numb. The engine was still running, the radio humming softly with static. I don't even know how long I sat there before I finally drove off. The streets blurred together. Stoplights, pedestrians, cars, all just noise. I wasn't crying. I wasn't angry. I was numb. My mind kept replaying that look on her face, that eerie calm when she saw me. It wasn't guilt. It wasn't panic. It was something colder, like I wasn't even real to her anymore. By the time I pulled into our driveway, the sky had gone completely dark. The house looked different, too, lifeless. Still, I sat there in the car for several minutes, staring at the front door, wondering if she'd come home later and pretend nothing happened. Wondering if I'd be able to pretend with her. Inside, everything smelled faintly of her perfume. The red bottle sat on the dresser in our bedroom, the same scent she'd been wearing tonight, the same one I'd smelled weeks ago and convinced myself meant nothing. I walked into the bathroom, turned on the cold water, and splashed my face. My reflection looked like someone I didn't recognize. Eyes hollow, jaw tight, expression frozen somewhere between heartbreak and disbelief. I wanted to scream. I wanted to punch a wall. But I couldn't. I didn't have the energy for rage. Just exhaustion. I sat down on the edge of the tub and stared at the floor tiles for a long time. There's something surreal about realizing the person you love has a whole other world that doesn't include you. You replay every memory, every late-night conversation, Every time they said, "I love you," and start wondering when the lie began. Was it recent? Or had it always been there, hiding in plain sight? I tried to pinpoint when she started slipping away. Was it that night she said she was too tired to watch a movie with me? The time she canceled our trip to see my parents? The way she'd stopped saying goodnight before turning away in bed? Every detail became a clue. Every silence became evidence. Around midnight, I walked downstairs and sat at the kitchen table. The sushi takeout bag from that night, the one I'd brought home weeks ago, was still in the recycling bin. I pulled it out and unfolded it, staring at the smudged logo. I remembered how I'd stood in this same kitchen, glass of water trembling in my hand, feeling something was off but not knowing what. Now I knew, and knowing hurt worse than not knowing ever did. My phone buzzed on the counter, a text from Allison. "Hey, still out. Don't wait up. Early meeting tomorrow. Love you." I stared at the screen, reading it over and over. My stomach turned. The casual lie, the empty "love you," the cruelty of pretending like tonight never happened. I didn't respond. I just set the phone face down, turned off the light, and sat in the dark. When the house was completely silent, I finally whispered to no one, "You saw me." It wasn't even anger anymore. It was mourning. The slow, hollow kind that doesn't break you in one go. It eats you from the inside, bit by bit. I didn't sleep that night. I just watched the clock tick from midnight to dawn, the seconds slicing through the quiet like tiny knives. When the sun finally rose, I felt hollowed out, emptied of everything except one quiet certainty. Whatever US used to be was gone. The next morning, she came home just before 7. I heard the garage door open, her footsteps in the hallway, the faint clink of keys on the counter. I stayed upstairs, pretending to sleep, my heart pounding with every sound she made. She moved quietly, too quietly, as if she didn't want to wake me. Maybe she thought I hadn't seen her. Maybe she believed her lie would hold one more day. And I let her think that, because right then, I didn't need confrontation. I needed clarity. I needed to know how deep the lies went. And when she finally crawled into bed beside me, her body cold from the morning air, I lay still, eyes open, listening to the sound of her breathing, realizing the person lying next to me was already gone. For 2 days I kept quiet. She acted like nothing had happened, and I played along. That's the thing about lies. Once you see them, you start to realize how many there were all along. Every gesture, every phrase, every smile becomes suspicious. Even silence sounds fake. Allison came home each night like clockwork, humming softly as she hung up her coat, asking about my day as if she hadn't erased me in that parking lot. She moved through the house like a guest trying to blend in. It was almost impressive, the performance, the calm, the control. But behind her words, something was off. There was distance in her tone and tension in her movements. She started locking her phone screen faster than ever, typing with her back turned toward me. I stopped asking. There was no point in collecting more lies. What I didn't know was that the affair was the least of what she was hiding. On the third night, after she went to bed, I sat in the living room with my laptop. I didn't plan on finding anything dramatic. I just wanted distraction. I opened our joint bank account out of habit. The numbers blinked on the screen, familiar but wrong. I stared at the balance for a long time, doing the math twice before it hit me. We were missing money. Not a little. Thousands. At first, I thought it was a glitch or maybe an automatic payment we'd forgotten about. But as I scrolled through the statements, a pattern emerged. Small transfers, each one just under the threshold that would have triggered a fraud alert. Same destination every time. Winton Strategies. It sounded corporate, clean, harmless, but something about it didn't sit right. We didn't use any consulting firms, and I'd never heard her mention that name before. So I Googled it. A company came up, registered 2 months ago, based in Chicago. My pulse quickened. I opened the listed address in Maps, some rundown office suite downtown, the kind that exists on paper but nowhere else. Then I scrolled down to the business registry. Owner's name, Ryan Carter. My name, my social security number, my driver's license, my signature. I froze. For a long moment, I couldn't even breathe. My brain couldn't process what I was seeing. I clicked through the documents again, trying to find the error, the coincidence. Something. But it was all there: bank routing, my photo on the file, even a copy of my ID. The company was mine. At least legally. Except I'd never heard of it. I checked the linked email address. It looked similar to mine, same pattern, same provider, but one letter off. Fake version. Someone had gone through the trouble of building a duplicate of me. And whoever it was had used it to funnel $15,000 out of our joint account over the past month. The room felt smaller suddenly, the air heavier. I stared at the glow of the screen while everything I thought I knew about my life rewired itself. Allison's late nights, the contractor meetings, the Chicago bag. It wasn't just an affair. It was a setup. I sat there in the dark for hours, clicking through files, tracing numbers, cross-referencing accounts. The paper trail was spotless. Too spotless. Whoever did this knew what they were doing. Every transaction disguised as a marketing expense. Every form signed with near-perfect forgeries of my handwriting. It was meticulous. And then, buried deep in the digital records, I saw it. A second name on the company registry. Cosigner, Derek Winton. That was his name. The man from the restaurant. The one who kissed her. Felt like gravity dropped out of the room. I stood up too fast, knocking over the glass beside me. Water spread across the table, seeping under the laptop. I didn't even care. My pulse was hammering so loud it drowned everything else. She hadn't just betrayed me emotionally. She had used me, my name, my information, my trust, to build a fake business with the man she was sleeping with. They weren't just partners in bed. They were partners on paper. And if that wasn't bad enough, it got worse. The company wasn't just fake. It had invoices, clients, payments, money routed through accounts that all traced back to me. On paper, I was the one running it. I clicked through one document after another, my hands shaking. The emails between me and the clients were written in Allison's tone. Her little phrasing habits were all over them. Thanks so much. Appreciate your patience. Let's circle back soon. They were her words. My name. If this went on any longer, she could have destroyed me completely. Tax fraud. Money laundering. I'd have been the fall guy for something I didn't even know existed. I sat there until the sun started to rise, the sky turning that grayish blue that always comes before dawn. I wanted to wake her up, to shake her until the truth came out. But then what? What would I even say? Hey, honey, I found the shell company you and your lover made in my name. No, I needed proof first. So I printed everything: bank statements, business records, registration forms. Page after page after page. I filled a black folder with evidence until it barely closed. By the time she came downstairs, I was sitting at the kitchen table with the folder beside me, drinking coffee that had gone cold. She smiled when she saw me, kissed my temple, poured herself a cup, and asked, "You okay?" I looked at her, really looked. The woman standing in front of me was a stranger. Not just because she'd been with someone else, but because she had planned this. She had thought about it, researched it, built it piece by piece. "I'm fine," I said quietly. She smiled again, too easily. "Good. You look tired." I almost laughed. That night, she said she had another late meeting. I didn't stop her. I watched her get ready. The makeup, the careful choice of perfume, the way she checked her reflection twice before leaving. When the front door closed behind her, I didn't follow this time. I didn't need to. I already knew where she was going, who she'd meet, what lies she'd tell. Instead, I sat down again with that folder and wrote a short note on the cover. For my lawyer. The next morning, I froze every joint account, changed every password, and scheduled a consultation with a firm downtown. The woman I met there, an attorney named Vanessa, looked through the documents with a frown that deepened by the minute. "This isn't just theft," she said. "It's fraud. Identity misuse. She's been building something under your name for months." I nodded slowly, my jaw tight. "And the co-signer?" Vanessa asked. "Her lover," I said. My voice didn't shake. She blinked. "They made you the scapegoat." Yeah, I whispered. Looks that way. I left the office feeling both lighter and sicker than I'd ever felt in my life. For the first time, I understood that what happened between Allison and me wasn't just infidelity. It was strategy. A betrayal designed to break me not just emotionally, but legally, financially, existentially. She hadn't destroyed our marriage. She'd nized it. And the worst part? She was still pretending nothing was wrong. That night, I left the black folder on the kitchen table, right where she'd see it. I didn't stay home the night she found the folder. Couldn't. Something about being in the same house under the same roof as her made my skin itch. I didn't want to be there when she read it. I didn't want to hear her excuses. I didn't want to see her face contort into fake confusion or watch her go through the motions of denial. I already knew how that scene would play out. The surprise, the manufactured offense, maybe even tears. So I left. I took a drive, ended up parked by the lake. The water was black glass, still and soundless. I sat in my car for nearly an hour with the engine off, hands in my lap, breathing slow. It was the first moment of actual peace I'd had in weeks. And even then, it wasn't peace. Just stillness. Pause in the collapse. I didn't go back until late. When I stepped inside, the lights were off. The house felt tense, like it was holding its breath. The black folder was gone from the kitchen table, but everything else was untouched. She hadn't left. She hadn't packed. She hadn't texted. She was pretending again, acting like silence made it disappear. The next morning, she made coffee like it was a normal Wednesday. Didn't mention the folder. Didn't ask where I'd been. She even hummed softly to herself while scrolling through her phone. I didn't speak to her. I didn't need to anymore. By Friday, she was dressed up again. Long earrings, smoky eyeliner. Her hair curled in loose waves. She said she had a corporate mixer, some after-hours event hosted by her company. I might be home late, she added casually, sipping her smoothie. I just nodded. She smiled at me then, like she still thought she had the upper hand. Like none of it had happened. Like I hadn't seen her kiss him. Like I hadn't traced every dollar she stole. She didn't know it yet, but this time I was going. Not with her, but behind her. I waited until she left, then changed into a dark jacket, grabbed my keys, and followed 20 minutes later. The event was being held at a luxury rooftop downtown. A popular spot with glass railings and string lights and overpriced cocktails. The kind of place people posted about when they wanted others to know they were successful. When I arrived, I parked across the street and watched for a few minutes. I saw her right away, standing in a loose circle of people, drink in hand, laughing a little too hard. She looked like she belonged there. She always knew how to blend in, how to shine just enough without blinding people. But now I saw it for what it really was, performance. Inside, I moved carefully, avoiding eye contact, keeping to the edges of the crowd. I wasn't trying to start a scene. I wasn't even there for her. I was there for the truth. 20 minutes passed before I heard her voice carry above the others. It started as a joke. Someone made a comment about husbands. I didn't hear the whole setup, just the punchline. And then came her voice. "I'll go find a real man," she said, raising her glass. People laughed. Too loudly. Someone nearly spit out their drink. Her coworker clapped her on the back, and someone else whistled. My ears rang. She was talking about me. And not just in passing, this wasn't a side remark. This was humiliation dressed as humor. A public declaration of disrespect. And what's worse, she said it so easily, like it wasn't the first time. I stood frozen by the bar, the rim of my glass pressed to my lips, my body still. And then I felt a presence beside me. Ryan, right? I turned slightly. A woman, mid-30s, sharp features, dark blazer, was standing next to me, holding a wine glass. She didn't look surprised to see me there. "I'm Vanessa," she said. The name clicked. Not the lawyer I'd spoken to, a different Vanessa. I realized she was one of Allison's coworkers. I'd met her once, briefly, at a company holiday thing. Back then, she'd barely looked at me. "I saw you come in," she said, voice low. "Didn't think you'd show." I stayed quiet, unsure what her angle was. "I'm sorry," she added, nodding toward Allison. "She's been different lately." I gave a small shrug. "So I've noticed." Vanessa hesitated, then leaned in slightly, her voice softer. "I saw her in Chicago a few weeks ago. With him. Same guy she's with tonight, right?" My heart stuttered. She kept going, slow and deliberate. "It wasn't a business trip. I was there visiting family. They were in the hotel lobby together, holding hands. She didn't see me." I turned to look at her, finally meeting her eyes. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. Vanessa took a sip of her drink. "Because I hate liars. And because she shouldn't get to laugh at you like that." For a moment we just stood there, the music thumping around us, laughter echoing from across the rooftop. I saw Allison again, now with her hand lightly resting on Derek's shoulder. They were angled toward each other like they were alone in the room. I didn't move. I didn't approach. I didn't cause a scene. I just watched. And with every second, I felt less pain, less confusion, less of the man who had stayed up nights wondering what he did wrong. I turned back to Vanessa and said, "Thanks for telling me." She gave a small nod. "If you ever need anything, a statement, whatever, I've got you." The offer was matter of fact. No drama, just solidarity. I left quietly after that, slipped out before Allison could see me, before I gave her the satisfaction of knowing I'd been there at all. Outside, the city was alive. People laughing on sidewalks, traffic lights blinking, the hum of downtown in full swing. But inside me, everything had gone still. I realized something as I walked to my car. She wasn't just cheating. She wasn't just stealing. She was performing my downfall, mocking it, owning it, and yet she had no idea who was watching. Not just me, not just Vanessa, but others too, the coworkers who had been quietly distancing themselves. The ones who looked away when she spoke too loudly. The ones who clapped awkwardly at her joke but didn't laugh. She thought she was winning, playing smart. But all she was doing was digging a deeper hole, one public humiliation at a time. And I was done being her silence. When I got home, I sat at the dining table and flipped open the black folder one more time. Then I opened a second one. Vanessa had already emailed over the notarized letter of what she saw in Chicago. I added it to the pile. A new file. A new record. Because from here on out, I wasn't just surviving this. I was documenting it. I found the man's wife on Facebook. Karen Boyles. Kids. Dog. Happy photos. I messaged her everything, *TS, names, receipts. She replied in an hour. I knew it. We talked. Turns out she'd suspected for months. Now it all made sense. Her husband and Allison weren't just cheating. They'd built a double life. We weren't alone. We were their cover story. I froze our accounts, redirected my pay, handed everything to my lawyer. Then I left, no yelling, no drama. Just a black folder on the table with every truth inside. Allison never called. I moved to a small place by the lake. Weeks later, Karen emailed. She left him too. Now they're stuck with each other, she wrote. I stepped onto my porch, breathed deep, and finally felt free.